National champions again. For the first time since 2014's season, Ohio State wins the national championship. They beat Notre Dame in a game that got really good, really exciting late. I know that early didn't look like it was over at halftime. Obviously, the lead too much for Notre Dame to come back from, but Ohio State gets it done. Ryan Day comes back from being maybe the first coach fired by his team after the regular season, fired by his fan base, maybe is a better way to put it, to win 4 games in a row in very convincing fashion, proving they were the best team. And I've got a lot of thoughts on what we've done to our regular season, things we can talk about postseason, but just tonight, I do want to talk about Ohio State and Notre Dame. I will say, an incredible hat tip to Notre Dame. First of all, just for making us care about the second half of this game. Like, we all at halftime thought this thing is over. And we all at halftime, especially when Ohio State came out and scored to open up the second half. You get 2 minutes in the second half and it's 28-7. And we're all thinking, we'll see you next year, right? We'll see you in August. We'll see you in Dublin for the first game. So a massive hat tip to Notre Dame for at least making us care about the second half. Great fight. And I'll talk more about Notre Dame in a moment, but a lot of respect for Marcus Freeman and that program, that team, what they dealt with and the run they went on this year. I do think he's building something pretty special there. But to the winner goes the spoils. This is the South here, so that is literally just a sweet tea and a lemonade combined. So, but hopefully if you're an Ohio State fan, you're drinking something a little bit stronger, a little bit more fun. Congratulations to you guys. You guys have been great on the channel, and it has been a lot of fun interacting with you guys. And man, I'll tell you, how nervous were you Ohio State fans after the first drive, right? My nerves for Ohio State weren't super high because I didn't know if they could continue on with the Leonard runs. But did you pause for just a minute and think, okay, this defensive line is getting pushed right now. We got to stop that because Leonard's running well now, but what happens if this line is getting pushed when they start giving Love the ball, when they start having a little bit more traditional stuff going? Will this open up their passing game? Which it did in the second half. I'll say that. I do think a big aspect of this game was that early Notre Dame made crucial mistakes. If they just score one more time in the first half, be it a field goal, be it a touchdown, whatever, if they score one more time in that first half, I think we have a little bit different of a ball game. But Notre Dame's mistakes in the first half were huge to me. Now, that's not taking anything away from Ohio State. Ohio State scored every time they had the ball in the first half. They scored on their first 4 possessions overall. They were, and that was enough. Those 4 scores to score 28 points were enough, right? The game was effectively over at that point. Little too late for Notre Dame at that point. But Notre Dame had a chance to, get their lead back, and penalties killed them. They had a chance to go and tie the game up at 14-all. And a botched snap, you're running a guy in motion, clock's winding down. Maybe Freeman or Leonard should realize that, call a timeout. Yeah, it's heat of the play. You think that guy's going to be just past. And mistakes were what did Notre Dame in this first half. I think that we knew Notre Dame would need to play the cleanest game of their season to counteract what Ohio State had the potential to do. The mistakes you saw from Ohio State against Texas, the penalties, forcing the ball down the field, they just weren't there. I know they had the one fumble with the Emeka play, really a great play by him until the fumble, but a great play by Notre Dame too. They knew they needed to make a play. But we didn't see those same mistakes from Ohio State this week, right? Ohio State shot themselves in the foot, and I expected them to play a cleaner game. That's why I picked them prior to the game. That's why I leaned Ohio State to win this thing. I thought it would be close, as it was, but I thought Ohio State would play cleaner and probably make less mistakes than Notre Dame, and I think they did. I think the 2 big mistakes that Notre Dame made in the first half were the penalties on the second drive and then the fumble on the third. That killed the drive, right? Like, they didn't turn it over, but it still killed the drive. Maybe they'd have been better off turning the ball over there because it would have given them more time before halftime to go down and score when they were moving quickly. Obviously, I didn't love Freeman's decision making. I told you in the preview that it would not shock me. Everyone expected Freeman to be the coach that was going to always outcoach everybody else. Ryan Day, as much crap as he's gotten, is a really good coach. And I told you it was not going to surprise me if after this game we said that Ryan Day outcoached Marcus Freeman. And I thought Freeman made a couple of mistakes in this game. I didn't like the fake punt, though it was a catchable ball, though it was drawn up fairly well. It wasn't the easiest catch of all time. And on 4th and 2, you got your backup in. I think they knew the fake was coming. I think you just run a play there. They had a pretty good yard per play for the entire night. I think you just run a regular play there. I didn't love that decision. I didn't love the field goal decision, although I'm not as hard on that one. If you make that field goal, you're down 5 or 6 because you probably wouldn't have gone for 2. And Ohio State still runs the clock out. It's not much different in the result. But if you're down 5 or 6 and you get that stop on 3rd and 10, the long bomb to Jeremiah Smith, which you didn't get, so still didn't really matter at the end of the day, you can go down and win the game with a touchdown and an extra point. So I didn't hate the field goal decision. 4th and goal from the 9 is tough, but I thought Freeman wasn't as sharp today as he has been through the playoffs. And I think Ryan Day ultimately outcoached them. That said, I still thought Freeman coached a pretty good game. Had a couple of mistakes. I loved the play call. And I know Denbrock, deserves, it's not just Freeman, but I loved the 2-point conversions. I thought they were both phenomenal. 1 on the pitch inside to Love. 2 on the kind of reverse pass to Faison. Everybody coming up, everybody thinking that is going to be a reverse, a run. They drew everybody up exactly like they thought they would. Easy pass to the guy in the back of the end zone to get it down to a 1-score game. The fight that Notre Dame showed was really, really impressive. The way they came back was really, really impressive. Ohio State was just too much. Ohio State, it seemed like everything Notre Dame threw at them. If it was zone, Howard was finding the guys. He had obviously a great game going 13 for 13 to start out, 14 for 15 to open the game. An incompletion on his first play of the second half, as many incompletions on his first play of the second half as he had in the entire first half. And then the very next play, Judkins rushes for 70 yards and essentially puts the game away, punching it in a couple of plays later. Again, I hated the fake. The field goal was big to make it 31-7. Again, at that point, you're needing 3 touchdowns, 3 2-point conversions. The Emeka fumble gave a little bit of life. The doink, the plays by, I thought Greathouse was really, really good tonight. We talked about him in the preview. Thought he would be really, really good. The bomb to Jeremiah Smith, the true freshman sealing it. It's not fair that he's a true freshman. It's not fair for college football that he gets 2 more years. It's not fair for Smith that he's not going to the NFL. But that play, the faith that they had, the look that they got, I don't even hate the call to come after Howard with the blitz, because if you just sit back, he's probably going to pick you apart like he's done all week or all night. To go 0 coverage, though, on Jeremiah Smith, I mean, that is something that Al Golden and that team will absolutely kick themselves over for the rest of eternity. They will think about it, but you pick your poison against this Ohio State team. And you think, well, if we can get home, we're going to force them into maybe a mistake, at least an incompletion. And they didn't get home, right? And that was the difference in the game. Everything Ohio State did seemed easy. And everything that Notre Dame did seemed difficult. Even that first drive, they had to convert on 2 4th downs. They had to basically run Riley Leonard into the ground. He never really looked the same the rest of the game. Everything Ohio State did was very easy. Everything Notre Dame did seemed difficult. It seemed hard to do. It seemed like everything was a challenge. Greathouse had to make an incredible spin move, 2 broken tackles, and then almost got chased down from behind. And all I'm thinking is, don't get that ball punched out down near the goal line, because that Ohio State defender was closing. But everything Notre Dame did was difficult. Everything had to be picture perfect. I thought Notre Dame had more missed tackles than I was expecting. Obviously, on the Judkins run, he had a really nice cutback on the long one. But then even on a touchdown, Notre Dame just allowing him to get in the end zone too often. Will Howard, I thought, played He started 14 for 15, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns in the first half. So yeah, he played really well. I'm not breaking any news there. But I also thought just the way he scrambled on the 1 touchdown and then found Judkins, right? It looked like he was going to have to force something, take a loss, throw the ball out of bounds, and they'll settle for a field goal. The way that Will Howard played after last week, I didn't think it was his best game. The way he played this week, so much better. Ohio State, I think it was 8 of 10 on 3rd down, and then had that those last 2. So what did that put them at? 9 of 11, and then on that last one, they just wanted to run some clock and kick the field goal. So what were they? 9 of 12 on the night. The last one I don't really hold against them. They were 9 of 12 on the night, and then 2 of them they kicked field goals on. So what did they punt 1 time in the game? That wasn't going to be good enough for Notre Dame. If I'd have told you that Ohio State was only going to punt 1 time in this game, you'd have told me they're going to win, right? They were too good on 3rd down. They never were rattled, and they always seemed like, hey, we're just going to play. I don't think they played conservatively, but I do think they played like, hey, we're not going to be the team to make mistakes in this game. No plays were even close to being Will Howard turnovers. Now, Notre Dame, again, made the great play on the Emeka catch and long run that came right after a big penalty. Freeman almost even telegraphed it and said, we need to go out and make a play. Announcers jinx, saying they never fumble the ball. But I did think that outside of that one mistake, did Ohio State make any other mistakes through this entire game? They had the 1 3rd down they didn't convert. They had the penalty that backed them way up, and they ended up having to settle for a field goal. Outside of that, I didn't think they made a lot of mistakes. Defensively, made a couple, had a penalty here, penalty there. Yeah, they made some mistakes defensively. But offensively, right, giving the ball up, turning the ball over, letting Notre Dame capitalize on mistakes. Even the turnover they had, Notre Dame had to drive the entire length of the field, 70-plus yards, to go and score. And so I thought Ohio State played, again, not conservatively, because they pushed the ball down the field. They went out and won this game. But I do think they played in such a way that we don't have to do too much. And Ohio State did a great job of not having to do too much, not trying to do too much in this game. Trying to do too much, trying to win the game in the first quarter, or trying to win the game in the first half, or make every spectacular play. That's how you lose games where you're favored by 8.5, 9, 10 points. That's how you lose games where you are the more talented team. And they didn't do that. They went out and said, we're going to play our game. We're going to take care of the ball. We're going to focus on execution. And that was the difference in the game to me. Notre Dame made a couple of mistakes early, and Ohio State refused to make mistakes, right? And they built a lead that was essentially unsurmountable, right? Like a lead that it just felt like, well, Notre Dame's at least making this a game. I had a Notre Dame buddy text me and say, hey, I feel a little bit better right now after the game than I did at halftime, right? We at least fought back. We made it close. We made it competitive. We didn't just get embarrassed. It wasn't 2012 all over again where it was 42-14. We fought. And nobody likes moral victories. Nobody likes moral victories in the national championship game, but I'll give you a couple. Marcus Freeman's a stud. And the program that they're building right now, the culture that they're building right now is legit. It is real. And I expect Notre Dame to be back. Will they be back in the national championship? Will they be back in the Final Four? I don't know, right? So much of that is a crapshoot. So much of that is what your draw is. We just had Oregon lose in their one and only playoff game because they ran into an absolute buzzsaw, a rematch of a game that they nearly lost at home earlier in the year. So I don't know how to project what Notre Dame's going to do going forward. Who's their quarterback next year? What's their defensive line look like? What's their offensive line? I don't know those things. But I do know that what Marcus Freeman is building is legit, and I expect them to be a playoff team under him more often than not. I expect them to win games in the playoff more often than not. And I had somebody comment, are you confident that Notre Dame wins a national championship before 2030? I'm not really confident that anybody does. I think the playoff is very much so now about who gets hot and not necessarily who had the best regular season, who's built this kind of roster, who's done this, that, and the other. It's about who gets hot. And the Tennessee game was a turning point for this team. And I thought that Ryan Day admitted that after the game. I thought that Ryan Day basically said, look, we had and we heard all the outside noise. And my biggest question for this Ohio State team coming into this playoffs was, do they let all of that outside noise impact them negatively? Or do they use it as a rallying cry? Some of it from their own fan base. Some of it from you folks that are watching this video right now, celebrating with champagne or bourbon or scotch or whatever you're drinking. Some of it was from you guys. You can be honest here. This is a safe space, right? But my question was, would they use that and internalize that and go into a bunker mentality and have that team meeting that we've heard about a million times? Or would the first sign of adversity start to have doubt creep in, and would they get run out of their own stadium by Tennessee? And obviously that didn't happen, right? They did the former. They used it as that bunker mentality. They didn't care what the outside said. They didn't care what people in their own fan base, their own boosters, their own folks were saying. And they stuck together. He talked about faith. He talked about family. And he said, that's what we are, is a family. And none of that would have been undone had Notre Dame won this game tonight. None of that would have been undone. The run that they went on, right, to beat Tennessee, the closest spread of the first round, to beat Oregon, the only 13-0 team in our sport this year, and then to beat a Texas team that I thought played really, really well and has a crap ton of talent, and then to hold off Notre Dame, a furious Notre Dame comeback, to build up enough of a lead to do things to that defense that had never been done before. With 28 minutes to go, Notre Dame had been giving up 298 yards a game. Ohio State had 302. 32 minutes into the game. To do things to that Notre Dame defense that hadn't been done all year, super, super impressive. To run through them and basically score at will. They had one drive that didn't end in points this evening. That offense was just way too talented. There are way too many weapons on that team. I don't really think this is an indictment on Notre Dame. I don't think this is Brian Kelly in the corner laughing at the fact that they didn't win a national title, because Marcus Freeman had them in this. And they didn't get blown out like they did earlier the last time they were in the national championship. They won 3 playoff games. Incredibly impressive run from Notre Dame, but an even better run from Ohio State. Buckeyes fans, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think right now. We didn't even mention that other game. We won't remember that from the last weekend, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. We've also got something coming for you. As soon as Amazon or Etsy or whoever I just ordered it from can get it to me, the very first year of us doing this and there being a national championship, we're 2 days past our 1-year anniversary, which is the 18th. So happy anniversary to us here at College Football Addiction. We are putting up a trophy, an Ohio State replica trophy, not a full size because it won't fit on the screen, but a small trophy of Ohio State back there, and we will do that every year there's a national champion. Maybe it'll be Ohio State again next year. Maybe it'll be Notre Dame. Maybe it'll be somebody. Maybe the SEC can get back into this thing. Who knows? For the second year in a row, the Big Ten takes this thing. But we will put it back there. And we will put trophies every year we do this until I give it up. It's probably not anytime soon. And Ohio State's the first one to go back there. The first time in the 12-team playoff, the first champion crowned here on College Football Addiction. Listen, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This was a heck of a college football season. Our very first video was about Nick Saban retiring. It's been about a year and a week since that happened. And we now have a national champion. We started the year with Saban's retirement. We end the year with the second straight Big Ten team winning the national championship. I know that there are 2 fan bases that aren't incredibly proud that there are 2 straight national champions from the Big Ten. Both of them the ones that won it because they don't like the other team that won it. However, I do think it's a testament to the Big Ten. We'll talk about that in the coming days. I have another video that I'm going to do on Ryan Day specifically. So if you're watching this and you're a Buckeyes fan, you're a Big Ten fan, you're a Notre Dame fan, if you're a college football fan and you're addicted to this sport like I am, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. We certainly do appreciate the growth of the channel, inching closer to 21,000 subs in a little over a year. That's been a lot of fun, but what's really fun is getting to interact with you guys down in the comments. So let me know your thoughts. Congratulations to the Buckeyes. I looked all over my local grocer for little Buckeyes to see if I could have one here on air as I did this thing. Couldn't find them. So in spirit, I'm enjoying a Buckeye, even though my local grocer didn't have them. So I appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in to College Football Addiction. A massive congratulations to Ryan Day, Jeremiah Smith, Will Howard, the rest of that program, all of its boosters, all of its supporters. Listen, I've seen my team win a national championship in person. There is nothing like it. And to do it by winning 4 games in the playoffs has to be even more special. I appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in. These are my thoughts on the national championship. We'll be back with more content throughout the week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out. We'll talk to you soon here on College Football Addiction.